Welcome gamers to this Legend of Zelda Link to the Past randomizer race between Applety and Keaton. My name is Didier Kirby. I will be your host for today's rebroadcast, and today we are looking at Game 1 of a quarterfinals match between these two racers. This is part of the GoMo Podcast Mentor Tournament 2024. The bracket stages are well underway, and these two racers find themselves in the Fighter Sword bracket, and they are in the quarterfinals. Applety having a 2-0 victory over Black Sabbath in their previous round, and Keaton winning out 2-1 over Acuity. So that was these two runners' path on the way here. I believe our game mode for Game 1 is going to be all dungeons. So I think the previous couple of matches that I have rebroadcast have been, casual boot seeds or open seeds. Today we're getting an all dungeon seed, so our runners are going to have to complete all the dungeons in the game. So that includes all three of the Light World dungeons, of course. That's Eastern Palace, Desert Palace, and Tower of Hera. But they are also going to have to finish all 7 of the Dark World dungeons. And they're also going to have to complete Aghanim's Tower. So might be in for a little bit of a longer one today. We'll see. Since this is an open mode start, our runners had the choice of starting between at Link's house or starting at Sanctuary. Looks like both of our runners electing to take the same starting route, starting at Link's house, getting the item there, and then going ahead and throwing the sign at the guard to get this tier 1 triple, which looks like it's just hearts. So not really gonna help out our runners there, but so both of our runners going to Hyrule Castle Secret Passage. We actually see a slight bit of divergence here. Keaton checking the treasure chest here before going to Uncle, and Applety going to Uncle first. I do believe, and I do have a video on this, I do believe Keaton's route is going to be slightly faster, actually, executed optimally. But of course, it does depend on, RNG in terms of how you navigate around those guards. But a lot of people think that it's closer to get to Uncle and back, but it's actually a little bit slower as long as the guards don't give you any trouble, because the screen transition to and from Uncle is a little bit slower. So getting to and from Uncle does end up being about a second or so slower than just going and getting that secret passage chest. But enough about that. It looks like both our runners, again, showing a little bit of path divergence as they go to the same screen. So they're going to be synced up again, going into these Lost Woods checks. So both runners electing to skip out on checking Lumberjack Cave for the time being. And we'll say, skipping, we got a flute early on. That is going to be a definite asset for both of our runners. I'm going to let them zip around Hyrule a lot faster. So that flute, of course, is our quick travel item. But as I was saying, it is pretty common to see Lumberjack Cave skipped out on in terms of early check in open start modes, compared to something like Casual Boots, where you already start with the boots and a sword. Like Keaton, gonna try to go for another tree pull, but they did not actually KO any enemies between their previous tree pull and this one, so that's actually just gonna be a straight time loss. Both runners electing for this kind of drop-down safe route. Don't want to have to deal with those green guards here. Keaton actually going to try and farm some drops from these green guards. Unfortunately, loses the 50% chance, so we still won't get to see what prize pack those guards are in. And unfortunately, both of our runners come to Kakariko without enough money for a bottle vendor, and also without any bombs. Now, Keaton is going to drop into the well, hoping to find some bombs in here. I do believe if you drop in... Oh, they found the boots. So that's a nice find. They're going to pick up some rupees in here as well, and bombs, but no bombs. That's actually not super surprising. I do believe if you check, those chests, you are less than 50% to find bombs. In the meantime, Applety choosing a different strategy and going to the back of the bar where there are indeed 3 bombs, so Keaton's going to find those as well. But of course, Keaton is going to have to redo that trip into the well if they want to get that item behind the bombable wall. So a little bit unfortunate for Keaton, and he still also needs to activate his flute. So as I was saying before, it is fairly common in open start modes to skip the check Lumberjack Cave, but I will say there is some merit, some additional merit to checking it in an all dungeon seed, as you know that Aghanim is going to be required at some point, so it's not like you're going to skip that altogether. But both our runners electing to skip out on that for now. It looks like we got a Book of Mudora. I believe that was the item behind the bombable wall in the well, so Keaton definitely going to want to make sure that they go ahead and go back for that one. That's going to be important. That book, of course, is going to give us access into Desert Palace, but of course without a... we do also have the boots, so we know that we can get pretty much everything in the front area of Desert Palace. But without a glove and fire source, we won't be able to finish the back and defeat the boss. Alright, and there's our fire source. So we do have a lamp here in Blind's hideout. So all we're missing is that glove to actually make a Desert Palace full clearable. But so far, this seed being pretty generous early on, we've already got both of our fast movement items in terms of boots and the flute. And we've got a lamp to make sure we don't have to do any rooms in the dark. And we've already got a sword, so runners feeling pretty comfy despite slight issues in terms of not really having that much money or bombs. So Applety, gonna get this red rupee. We'll see. I think if you're Applety, you pretty much are priced into buying some additional bombs here. They do luckily have just enough rupees to do that, and it looks like they are going to do that, yeah. Being stuck on 0 bombs, not something you want to do, as you're going to need bombs for a lot of the upcoming checks. For example, Mini Moldorm Cave requires a bomb to get into, Ice Rod Cave also requiring a bomb. Traditionally Race Game does require a bomb to get to, but since our runners have the Pegasus boots, they won't actually need that. So it looks like Applety is going to be, getting a glove here. Okay. So that is a full clearable Desert Palace, actually. I wonder if there's some progression hiding out over there, since our seed seems to be pretty strongly pointing in that direction. It looks like Applety is going to go ahead and scout the item on Race Game. Imagine they're going to flute away if this is nothing. It is 10 bomb, but of course Applety already bought a full grip of bombs. Keaton, I didn't quite catch it, but I assume they did the same as well. Alright, an Applety with 100 rupees out of the dam. That's definitely a welcome sight. We can get our first map check of the game, so we got a regular crystal down Desert Palace, a red crystal at Eastern, and I believe a pendant on Hera, if I saw that correctly. I know Applety's tracker seems to say otherwise, but maybe it was just mismarked. Hopefully we'll see that again on Keaton's side. Now you might be wondering what is... Okay, Keaton actually choosing to blind get the item here on Race Game, but it is going to be 10 bombs, unfortunately, so yeah, definitely not going to bother collecting that one. So they are going to lose a little bit of time, additional time, compared to Applety, so already things for Keaton not going quite as smoothly. You know, they did drop into the well and not find any bombs there, and they also elected to blind get the item on Race Game, which didn't pay off. But they did make the call to go straight to Desert Palace, and they see their hammer there. So that's going to be a nice pickup. Applety, in the meantime, choosing instead to go to the dam in Mini Moldorm Cave. I do like this on Applety's part. There's kind of nothing that makes the Mini Moldorm Cave and dam checks faster besides potentially the hookshot or the mirror, so you can get both of the items in dam in one go. And you never know, you might find, another sword upgrade or the fire rod, which could make Desert Palace a little bit faster in terms of killing the boss. So Applety is going to head over to Desert immediately after. This is totally unsurprising, as, again, this is a full clearable dungeon. It looks like they are going to choose a little bit of a different strategy here. They're going to check the item at Egina first. This is interesting. So usually, you see a lot of people route Desert Palace first, so finish everything in the dungeon, and then do Egina afterward, because it kind of feels bad to walk all the way out of Egina's cave. It looks like Applety going to do that in a different order. And it looks like Keaton found a sword upgrade over here in Desert, so that's definitely going to make the fight against Lanmo a little bit easier to stomach. Of course, we are also going to have that hammer, which is on the ledge outside of Desert Palace. So those will be our two, damage dealing options for defeating Lanmo. And Applety going to actually take another flute instead of dashing over. So we'll see which one of our runners ends up ahead after all of this. Remember, Keaton still hasn't done Dam and Mini Moldorm Cave, but they were a little bit behind going into all this. But we'll see in terms of the routing of Desert Palace which one of these runners ends up gaining some time. And you might be wondering, so we did see that map check earlier. Looks like Keaton hasn't yet done theirs. You might be wondering what the point of a map check even is in an All Dungeon Seed, as you know that even if the dungeon is a pendant dungeon, all 10 of our Light World and Dark World dungeons are required to finish the game, so you might be wondering what's the point of that, but there is definitely a point, and that is because the green pendant will, of course, still let you check the prize from turning it into Sahasrahla, and those 2 red crystals are going to open up the Pyramid Fairy check, and having all 3 pendants, of course, will allow us to pull bed. Looks like some of Applety's screen is actually cropped off, so I'm going to see if I can fix that over here. Just noticed that on my side. And, alright, that looks a lot better. So, Keaton going into their Lanmo fight. Again, it's going to be either Master Sword or Hammer hits here. Let's see how they do with this fight. Shouldn't be that difficult. I don't think our runners are in danger of dying here. It's just a matter of how quickly we can, get this done. The hammer hitbox can be a little bit weird to use against Lanmos. They are moving targets, of course, and they are a little bit erratic, so it's like Keaton deciding to stay mostly with sword slashes. I don't blame them. And of course, getting spins where they can, as that is going to do more damage than sword slash. Keaton does have to be a little bit careful here. They're only at 2 hearts, so electing to stay a little bit more safe here. Remember, the Lanmo spawns do emit diagonal projectiles, so as long as you stay cardinal to them, you will be safe. Yeah, so Keaton kind of staying closer to the walls to avoid taking any extra damage. And then choosing to slash when they can. Looks like Applety went for a dash through that door, but unfortunately bonked on Keylor. Not a big deal, though. Alright, Keaton definitely definitely having slowed the pace of this fight down, unfortunately, since they feel like they have to be more careful now. We'll see if Applety manages to finish this any faster. Now, of course, once it's down to the last of the Lanmos, they do fire additional projectiles, so they fire projectiles in 8 different directions, so you have to be a little bit more careful to avoid those. I do believe, actually, that the Master Sword slashes might not actually do any additional damage compared to Fighter Sword slashes. I don't remember for sure, but I know a lot of the Light World bosses are not programmed to take any extra damage from, Master Sword damage class compared to Fighter Sword damage class. You could theorize that's because you're not expected to have the Master Sword at that point in the game, or it could also be a measure to reduce the benefit of sword spins, because Fighter Sword spins do Master Sword class damage. Right, so Keaton finishes that fight okay, but Applety already only at half a heart, so they really need to be careful on this. Okay, it looks like they're electing for spins instead. That can be a way to keep yourself a little bit safer, as the spin will generally knock you back, hopefully into a clear and safe position. And of course it does do more damage than a slash. It'll do Tempered Sword damage, actually. Oh, but unfortunately it doesn't release that spin in time and take the death there. That's unfortunate. So Keaton definitely going to make it out of Desert Palace first. Remember, they do still have to do Mini Moldorm Cave and the Dam, but I would say with this death, Applety is a little bit behind now. Still a lot of seed to be played, of course. This is only our first dungeon, but Keaton is already on the board with their first crystal at, as we are at the 13-minute and half 13.5 minute mark. Alright, Applety wanted to collect that heart, but unfortunately gets blasted by the Beamos laser for it. Yeah, you know, a lot of times it is common to not have, you know, full access to Lanmo until later in the game when you ostensibly have either more health or, you know, hopefully access to a better weapon such as the Fire Rod. This can be a fight that is a little bit unusual in terms of weaponry. Applety going into it with full health this time. Hopefully they manage to stay a little bit more safe against these Lanmos. Okay, still relying on the spin slashes, and already first Lanmo down. Still at four hearts, so looks like they are looking pretty good as far as this goes. Keaton going to be taking down these mini Moldorms in Mini Moldorm Cave. Ooh, times that slash spin a little bit early on Applety's side, but finishes the fight just fine. I do feel like that second round fight was actually a little bit faster than what we saw on Keaton's side. Just unfortunate that the first attempt at that didn't work out. So if you're Applety, where do you go from here? You've got a kind of a one-off check that's easy to do at Sick Kid, but we also haven't done Ice Rod Cave. There's also the Back of Escape, of course, that we can do with the glove. We can even actually do everything in Logic in Escape, as we do have that lamp. And if our runners wanted to, they could even do climb Aghanim's Tower, although there isn't really a pressing reason to do that right now. Like Applety electing to save and quit to Link's house, and this looks like they're going to Castle Escape. So they'll be able to do these checks in the front of Escape. Oh, looks like they're changing their minds. Interesting. Okay, I didn't actually see anything wrong with that. Okay, okay, this makes sense, actually. I think they are remembering that they have their glove, and they can just drop down and do the 3 checks in the back of Escape first, and that way they'll be able to tell, they'll be able to potentially have some extra knowledge about whether Dark Cross has an item or not. Looks like Keaton was trying to set up for a water walk there, but unfortunately didn't get it. They might not have been close enough to the pit while doing that dash, or yeah, maybe something else went wrong, so a little bit unfortunate. Applety finds the bow out of the back of Escape. Looks like Keaton is going to probably grab that as well. I don't think we saw a Bonk Rocks check by Applety, actually. Looks like Keaton is going to skip over that for now as well, but maybe Applety's going to go for that right now? No, Applety's fluting away. Keaton looks like they are going to do Bonk Rocks. And Applety going to go ahead and go into Eastern, assuming they're going to just full clear this, as it is fully in Logic with that lamp and bow. No reason to put this off right now. I guess there is an argument for some people do like to try and put off Eastern Palace, even if they have the ability to full clear it, hoping that they can come back later with a Mirror and Moon Pearl to, you know, do it in concert with Pod. Oh, very nice hammer dash by Applety. I like that. But, you know, there's no saying where our mirror is going to be in this seed, so there's definitely no guarantee that we'll be able to combo Pod and Eastern. And of course, we could just get progression out of Eastern. We do find the magic powder here in the first chest, so that is going to be a magic bat check that we can do in Logic, along with Sick Kid the next time we go to Kakariko. It looks like Keaton is going to go ahead and dash over to Eastern Palace instead. A lot of different pathing decisions to get to the same locations, actually. Although it looks like... Oh, okay, so Keaton electing to check Saha before Eastern. I imagine Applety is going to do Saha after Eastern Palace. I don't actually know which way is faster. Alright, Keaton going to find the Ice Rod. Ooh, that is a stacked Saha's Closet. So we find the Ice Rod, the Mitts, and Ether Medallion. Okay. So really the question is, where is our Moon Pearl to kind of open up the rest of the seed for these runners? Alright, we have half magic in Eastern Palace, and it looks like we do have a big key. We found it in, I believe, the second chest in Eastern Palace. So there's one item remaining in Eastern Palace. If it's not here, then it's a 50-50 between Vanilla Big Key Chest and the Armless Knights. Looks like Applety is going to elect to check the Vanilla Big Key Chest first. Unfortunately, this is a slow check, so we'll see whether this pans out. There are a lot of runners, myself included, who will elect to just take the 50-50 and go to Armless Knights first, and then perhaps elect to go back into the dungeon if the item was indeed on the Vanilla Big Key Chest. It does end up saving you a little bit of time on average, but of course, it'll increase your time variance, as half the time you'll save a bunch of time and half the time you'll lose a bunch of time. So Applety taking the kind of more traditional route and just full clearing the dungeon while they're there, and it looks like the last item is indeed on the Vanilla Big Key Chest. It's just 10 arrows, so was skippable, but of course there's no way of knowing that beforehand, so Applety would have gained some time if they were racing against me. We'll see if Keaton makes the same routing decision, or whether they choose to play it differently. And Applety wanting to refill on hearts, not a bad idea. Definitely don't want a repeat of what happened in Desert Palace. Especially since, if you die in Desert Palace, you just have to do the back of the dungeon again, but if you die in Eastern Palace against Armless Knights, you're gonna have to do, go through the whole dungeon again, so essentially, so you definitely don't want that to happen. So from here, it looks like our runners, where could they be off to? We still have the front of Escape unchecked. We have 2 checks up on the mountain in Logic as well, and we've got those one-offs in Kakariko Village. That's Sick Kid and Magic Bat. Looks like Keaton is electing to take the same route as Applety, so no time gained or loss in this case. And Applety trying to set up for this one cycle on these red Igors, very nice job. And into the fight with Armless Knights. So each Armless Knight is going to take 3 arrow shots to take down. Applety electing to start from the bottom right corner. It's a pretty straightforward way to handle this fight. Nice. And that is crystal number 2 for Applety at the 21.5 minute mark. Keaton following suit. Looks like Keaton feeling a little bit more confident here. Elects to skip out on that fairy drop. Ooh, looks like the Popos here actually dropping a bunch of hearts, so yeah, they managed to refill entirely anyways. And Applety is going to pick up their load of goodies from Saha's Closet. That's going to be their Ice Rod, their Titan's Mitts, and their Ether Medallion. So from here, I imagine it's either got to be... well, I think any of these choices are pretty good, actually. I don't think Applety has checked Ice Rod Cave yet, but they could be trying to put that off until they have, 500 rupees to go set up for a potential water walk to the Zora area. Okay, Keaton's setting up for this quick kill on the upper right side. Let's see if they get it. Looking good so far. Had to adjust their position there, but still looks like they could get it. Oh, but didn't really finish it fast enough. Oh, still gets the quick kill on the last 2, so not perfect, but cleans it up very, very nicely. Alright, Applety finding the Magic Cape on King's Tomb. Doesn't logically open up anything that we didn't already have access to. Potentially another hint at potentially something being behind Aga. I wonder if Applety is going to give us our check of Lumberjack Cave, as that is, of course, fully in Logic here. Keaton gonna go ahead and take a different approach. They are just gonna do the front of Escape here, it looks like. Now this is interesting for Keaton because they know that Aga is a possibility, so it is in logic here, but they don't, they having not checked, for example, Lumberjack Cave, they don't know whether Aga is required for Dark World access, but they could elect to just do it anyways, as we said in the beginning of the game. This is an all dungeon seed, so it is going to be required at some point. In the meantime, Apple T making good game knowledge usage of that golden bee and trading, showing it to the bottle vendor for 100 rupees. Looks like it wasn't actually necessary, as Sick Kid had 300 rupees for that bottle turn-in, but good idea anyways. This to me tells me that Apple T is perhaps thinking about doing that water walk from Ice Rod Cave to the Zora area. And Magic Bat is just a piece of heart, so Apple T choosing to follow up on these Kakariko checks while Keaton checks out the front of Escape. Looks like Keaton does have the small key here, and I can't remember off the top of my head whether they found the map yet, so I'm not sure whether or not Dark Cross is a guaranteed item or not. Like Apple T is going to follow Keaton into the front of Escape here, so neither runner has checked that item on Lumberjack Cave. Now if Keaton wants to, potentially do Dark Cross or Aga here, they are going to have to set up a Death Warp. It looks like they triggered aggro on this green guard. They could elect to use their Boomerang, but okay, just decides not to. They take an additional hit. Okay, so they're at 1.5 hearts. If they want to bomb, they want a Death Warp here, they're going to have to use 2 bombs. And there's the map in Zelda's Cell, so Dark Cross is indeed guaranteed to be an item here. So I imagine Keaton's gonna get that first. Then I imagine Keaton's probably gonna say no to Aga. Well, I don't know actually, it kind of depends on how comfortable they feel with doing Aga. Again, you have to do it at some point. It could be a little bit easier to stomach later on when you have access to additional equipment such as the Fire Rod or even Silver Arrows. But it is something you have to do at some point, and it, like I said before, it is going to give us access to that item on Lumberjack Cave, and that could be our Pearl. Pearl could of course also be on Pyramid Ledge, which is only accessible by doing Aga right now, so that is something else we're considering. And Keaton nabs the mirror at Dark Cross, so we're going to use that right away, and it looks like they are making the call to do Aga. I like this. I think without the mirror, on that check, it becomes a little bit tougher to stomach because you have to, wait a little bit longer for the enemies there to, kill you in order to warp back to the front. But if the mirror's right there, just might as well use it, right? So Keaton pulling the trigger on Aga here. Yeah, I like this, and Apple T making use of that blue boomerang to stun the green guard, make sure that they are still alive for the Death Warp. Could have taken a little bit more damage from that Ball and Chain Guard. Of course, the Ball and Chain Guard does do 1 entire heart of damage with each attack, as opposed to the Green Guard, which only does a half heart of damage, but gets the job done. And Apple T kind of basically, so both of our runners basically ending up in the same situation. I believe the only difference is that, no, I think the only difference is, I believe Keaton hasn't checked a King's Tomb yet. And I think Apple T hasn't been to Ice Rod Cave yet, but aside from those minor differences, both of our runners pretty much going to end up at the same spot, with Keaton looks like a little bit further ahead, again mostly due to that death on Lanmo for Apple T. Yeah, it looks like Apple T also going to elect to mirror straight away, and ooh, they're not going to pull the trigger on Aga. It looks like they want to have some additional equipment before climbing the tower. So they're instead going to use the flute to head up the mountain. So there are, yeah, this is definitely not a bad option either. That mirror does open a ton of checks on the mountain, and I have to imagine Apple T, saw that whole swath of green light up on their tracker, or assuming they use a map tracker. I don't know if they do, but yeah, since we have the mirror, we can go ahead and full clear Tower of Hera. We can get over to the east side of Death Mountain using the hammer to get over the kind of bridge on the top side of Death Mountain. So yeah, there's a pretty good chance that something is hiding up here on the mountain. And even though, yeah, it is true that you do have to do Aga's Tower at some point, kind of the very fastest way to do it is going to be to probably to mirror immediately after Ganon's Tower, and just you're right there. You don't even have to walk through the front part of Hyrule Castle to make it there. So there's definitely arguments on either side. But Keaton is, of course, going to open up access to the Pyramid Ledge and Lumberjack Cave checks. So we'll see if those end up playing a key here. Apple T taking a short trip to the Dark World. That's a really cute sprite for the bunny sprite for Dratini. Oh, unfortunately, that Dead Rock is kind of in the worst position imaginable. Ouch. Apple T almost taking death here, actually. I wonder if they'll elect to use the Magic Cape on the way out. That's kind of the only way I can think of to avoid this Dead Rock. Although, okay, looks like it scrolled off screen, actually. Okay, they had the same idea as me, using the Magic Cape, but yeah, better safe than sorry. Keaton, in the meantime, going to be entering this Aga 1 fight. And Apple T says no to those 50 rupees. They've already got 800 on deck, so probably not something that's going to be needed. They have to do have to be a little bit careful here. Those flames will do a single-hearted damage. That looked to me like an intentional death. Looks like they just want to start at the beginning of this dungeon and have, you know, their 5 hearts. Just make things a little bit safer. You know, if you're going to take a death, you might as well just intentionally take one at the beginning of the dungeon rather than, you know, getting all the way up to the top floor only to die and have to, you know, climb the tower again, so... Alright, and having to climb up Tower Para the vanilla way, of course, no Parapot shenanigans are possible since we don't have access to the hookshot. There are some runners who, in some situations, will go ahead... Ooh, there's the Cave of Samaria in Tower Para. Looks like Apple T gonna go ahead and not elect to do this bomb jump to the big chest. It can be a very punishing one if you miss it. So just electing to drop down from the big chest to the big chest from above. They are going to set up for this bumper skip though. Oh, so they're just skipping the big chest. Oh yes, that's right, actually. It's because they've already seen both items, so big chest wasn't even an issue. And Keaton is going to find the Moon Pearl on Pyramid Ledge, so Aga is required for our Dark World access. Okay. Ooh, unfortunately, Keaton, or Apple T, takes a fall to Moldorm there. Keaton, finding that they just needed to leap down that ledge to get out of bunny form. It's a pretty rare situation to find the Moon Pearl in the Dark World overworld, so not something you see every day. Okay, Apple T, unfortunately in a kind of tricky situation here with Moldorm. You hate to see Moldorm in that kind of left-hand corner there. Okay, it gets a nice spin off. I do feel like they got a poke. Yeah, so they're going to have to deal with Moldorm's enraged phase here. But does finish the fight okay. Awesome. Meanwhile, Keaton is going to give us our Hype Cave check. So Keaton, you can see it on Keaton's map tracker. We kind of have the whole world open to us now with, you know, we've got Mitz, we've got Mirror. Yeah, I guess at some point they're going to be getting their... Remember, the Cave of Samaria is in Tower of Hera. And Keaton is going to have their Moon Pearl first time they go up the mountain, so I wonder if later on that's going to be a chance for Keaton to go into Turtle Rock. But of course that's a long ways from now. Keaton probably going to be doing a bunch of other stuff before going up the mountain. Looks like they are heading west here, so they'll be able to check Stumpy, K45, Dig Game, and then head up to Village of Outcasts and Thieves Town if they want to, which I imagine they will. You know, having access to the Mitz does allow you to get from Dig Game to Village of Outcast. Normally, that is where runners will save and quit, because without the Mitz, you can't lift that dark-colored boulder there. But with Mitz on hand, you can route this pretty nicely. I will say, knowing that we have access to the Cave of Samaria, we might also potentially have a full clearable Misery Mire on our hands. You know, we already have 2 of our 3 medallions for both of our runners, and we have that flute. and Mist to get over to the Misery Mire area. So I wonder if that's going to be a juicy location. But the hookshot is over here on Death Mountain as well in Paradox Cave, so once Keaton makes it up there, they're going to have a field day. They're going to be able to clear basically everything on the mountain, minus, I guess, Turtle Rock, unless they find the Fire Rod at some point before they go up. Which would kind of be ideal for them, actually, so I wonder if that's going to happen. So Apple T finding a bunch of nice progression here, you know, with that Hookshot and Cane of Samaria, but unfortunately still missing their Moon Pearl, and they're probably running a little bit low on places to check, but I guess I imagine they're probably going to be doing that, they're probably going to be doing that fake flip, not fake flipper, that water walk from Ice Rod Cave now. Yeah, you know, that was their plan a long time ago before they found, you know, Mirror. You know, they were farming some rupees to make this possible. Just a little bit unfortunate that, you know, they're putting off Aga, as that is, you know, going to be what enables them to kind of open up kind of everything here. We got a map check on Keaton's side. Was pretty fast, so I didn't quite see it, and it looks like they didn't map it on their tracker, but of course all dungeons are going to be required, so it only matters in terms of the crystals and pendants. And looks like Keaton is deciding to start their Dark World dungeons with Palace of Darkness. So they didn't actually elect to go from Digging Game up into Village of Outcasts and Thieves Town, instead electing to do Palace of Darkness. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Palace of Darkness kind of doesn't get any faster. You can't really combo with anything at this point because we've already done all of Eastern Palace. So you can kind of do it whenever you want, and if there is progression here, then yeah, you'll get it. Okay, so Apple T wasn't paying attention. I don't know if they set up a water walk or they're just doing a fake flipper. They're fake flippering to Hobo. We'll see if they have a stored water walk to activate once they come out here. And it looks like they do. Okay, so they elected to fake flip to Hobo and then use a water walk that they had stored to get over the Zora area. This actually is, if you're going to check both Hobo and the Zora area checks, this is generally going to be the better way to do it, as opposed to water walking to Hobo and then swimming to Zora. Just allows you to make really good use of your water walk. Hopefully they don't get a heart refill here, as that would break the water walk state. Okay, nice. Just bombs and a blue mail. So with this water walk, oh, okay, so they unfortunately elected to end their water walk, and that is safer to get through this screen in Zora. Of course, if you are water walking, you do run the risk of being soft locked if you get hit in an inopportune location. But if you are still in the water walk state, there is a very nice dash that you can do all the way to Zora. Unfortunately, Apple T, yeah, don't have the flippers on hand, so going to have to dash down the middle lane, which is why doing that water walk would have been a little bit faster. But of course, we still have the boot, so not going to be all that slow anyways. So Apple T still needs to, you know, pull the trigger on Aga in order to get their Moon Pearl on Pyramid Ledge. And for Keaton, it's, number one, it's kind of a matter of, you know, how fast can we full clear, you know, all these dungeons. But I think there's also an interesting question of, you know, okay, so we've got a lot of stuff, actually, right? We still need our flippers and Cane of Samaria and Fire Rod and Hookshot, so it's not like we're that close to go mode. But there is sort of a balancing act. Okay, good. Apple T is heading to Aga now, so they will be en route to find their Moon Pearl. So of course it looks like they're kind of way behind Keaton here, but they have cleared Tower of Hera, done a bunch of the Light World Mountain checks, and they also took care of those flipper checks. So, you know, we'll see if that evens out. Very nice bonk by Keaton to get over that ledge. They're gonna trigger the switch here. It looks like they're just getting the right positioning here. Gotta be just in between that chest and the crystal switch, and it looks like definitely you want to do that with a bow shot rather than a sword beam, as the collision is just a little bit more generous. But like I was saying, ooh, nice key dash by Applety. Oh, just misses it though. Where Keaton, there is sort of this balancing act that I find tends to happen sometimes in all Dungeons and Seeds, where you have a bunch of, or handful of full clearable crystal dungeons, right? Keaton still has Thieves Town and potentially Misery Mire to full clear. And there is sort of this question of like, okay, do I just rush to the dungeons that I know I can full clear? Or do I spend some extra time, clearing out overworld checks efficiently while I'm kind of in those areas? And on the one hand, if you just rush your crystal dungeons, your progression could just be there, and then you get to skip a bunch of overworld checks. But of course, if you end up having to do those overworld checks, doing them on the way is going to end up being faster in the long run. So there's sort of this tension sometimes between kind of prioritizing, what you need to do in the short run versus planning for more efficient check strings and being a little bit more thorough, even if that includes checks that you might not necessarily have to do, depending on your luck with the item progression. Now, of course, we know that there's a bunch of progression hanging out on the mountain. There is our Hookshot and our what else is there? Hookshot and Cane of Samaria up there on the mountain. And I guess Keaton actually only has, they don't have a full clearable Misery Mire because they don't have that cane. So it's actually just going to be Thieves Town and Tower of Hera for them. So I wonder how they're going to prioritize this, because both options are pretty juicy, right? You can do Village Backcast, Thieves Town, and all of Smith Chain, and then that is a kind of a really efficient check string. But you could also just go up the mountain and do pretty much everything there minus Eternal Rock. So that could definitely be appealing as well. I do know that I think Eastern Palace was was one of our red crystals today. I'm curious to see. I know Keaton doesn't have the crystals marked on their map tracker, but once Applety gets to the Dark World, I wonder what the other red crystal was for the Dark World dungeons today, because you might want to, if you're in both of these runners' shoes, you might want to get that crystal before, doing all Smith Chain, because that way, once you're done with, the purple chest, you can just dash right over to the bomb shop and then check Pyramid Fairy, and, kind of extend your chain of checks there to make it even more efficient, so. But as Applety finishes this Aga 1 fight, Keaton is going to be finishing up with Palace of Darkness, so they just have to take down Helmasaur here. Have to be a little bit careful with these hammer hits. Yeah, if you hammer next to the turtles, they will flip back over. But gets it done. It still manages to hold on to all of their health as well. So they should have no problems with this Helmasaur fight, assuming they manage to keep their wits about them. Alright, and Applety gonna be traveling around as this cute little egg, and they're gonna find their Rune Pearl. So I wonder if they're feeling bad about this, since this was something they could have done earlier. But as I said earlier, like, it's not like they wasted a bunch of time doing other stuff. That the checks on the mountain, as well as those flooper checks, are potentially things that Keaton is going to do later on. So, but Applety not even going to do Hype Cave right here. Instead, going to rush straight over to Palace of Darkness. So I wonder if they're going to route this a little bit differently. They might be thinking about doing Palace of Darkness right away, and then, okay, here's our map check. So our other red crystal is actually Misery Mire, which Applety has a good chance of full clearing. So I wonder if that's going to be a priority for Applety. Of course, Keaton does not have that Cane of Samaria from Tower of Hera, so they don't have that option. But yeah, I wonder if Applety decides to, after clearing Palace of Darkness, they could elect to Keaton... Oh, Keaton's just floating away. They could elect to head over to Misery Mire, full clear Misery Mire, and then they would be able to do Village Outcast, Thieves Town, all of Smith Chain, Hype Cave, and Pyramid Fairy, and that seems like a pretty juicy check string to me. Of course, there's also downsides of that. You might want to put off Misery Mire, as that can be a difficult dungeon to execute, especially since we don't have a ton of health, and, you know, if you're not careful against Vitreous, you know, can get into trouble. Our runners do have access to Half Magic and the Cape, so that could help in that regard. But we'll see what they end up choosing. Looks like Keaton is going to go ahead and take this Kakariko portal, so I imagine this is going to be Village of Outcasts and Thieves Town, unless they're interested in taking a stop to Skull Woods, and it looks like they are. You know, a lot of runners will consider the front Skull Woods to kind of be, you know, overworld checks that are kind of, you know, just to the north of Village of Outcasts. It is technically part of the dungeon, but, you know, the dungeon is kind of made up of multiple parts, and a lot of runners will elect to just always do these few Skull Woods checks in the front of Skull Woods on their first visit to the Dark World. I do have to say I'm a little bit surprised that Keaton is doing this, given that there's just so much else that's open to them. And Skull Woods does often have progression in it, but it is only 2 checks. And a lot of times it can take quite a while before you finish these 2 checks over here in the front, and there's not even guaranteed to be any items here. They could just both be hanging out in the back of Skull Woods. But on the other hand, you know, sometimes the front of Skull Woods, you just find the 2 items right away, and then it's really fast, and then move on with your life. So, and of course, sometimes very key items are often hiding out in Skull Woods, kind of more often than you might think at first, just because there's only 2 checks there. But you know, I've seen my fair share of seeds where there's seems to be progression an awful lot in Skull Woods. All right, Keaton narrowly misses hitching a ride on that hand, but remembers that they have the magic mirror, so not going to need to do that anyways. And you'll see Keaton elected to grab a small key from that middle section of Skull Woods, and that is going to make the routing in the front part of Skull Woods a little bit easier. So once they're done, you know, with all the checks here, they can just use their magic mirror, be transported to the front of the dungeon, and of course they're guaranteed to have a small key on hand to go left here. Looks like they're setting up for a bomb jump to get to the Big Cheek chest. Unlike the Tower Para bomb jump, this one is not very punishing if you miss it, so definitely a good one to go for. And continuing to not really find anything in Skull Woods. We only got 1 chest left, and this is why I kind of said, you know, sometimes you're in here and you spend a lot of time, you don't really find anything, and it feels kind of bad. Yeah, so not really panning out, unfortunately. But we'll see if Apple Tea can make up some ground if they decide to skip that sequence of checks. But I imagine Keaton from here. Looks like they're going to give a scout to Bumper Cave Ledge. This could also be the perfect opportunity to check Lumberjack Cave. We still haven't seen that, and it is something that has opened up since both of our runners have done Aga. Looks like Keaton is going to do just that. Ooh, also manages to get a Quick Warp there. Quick Warp is something that can happen on certain Kama coordinates. Looks like there is nothing on Lumberjack Cave. So Quick Warp is something that can happen on certain Kama coordinates if you use the mirror. Usually happens when you're aligned with the grid, which looks like they were, because they were kind of sandwiched between those 2 bushes. And so when that happens, you do gain about half a second on the mirror transition. I have no idea why that happens, it just is a thing that happens. Another one of the mysteries of how this game works. Alright, so Keaton electing to be a little bit thorough here. Ooh, have to be a little bit careful. Yeah, those high Noxes can really hurt. Luckily, we had Blue Mail, so it didn't hurt quite as much. So Keaton electing to be a little bit more thorough here, so they could have just, you know, even out of the Kakariko portal, they could have just gone straight south to Village of Outcasts and Thieves Town, but they chose to instead stop by Front Skull Woods. Now they're doing Graveyard Ledge. I imagine they're probably going to use this chance to check King's Tomb if they haven't already, and then they're probably going to make it back over to Village of Outcasts and Thieves Town after this, I imagine, unless they want to go all the way to Catfish, although they don't have the flippers, so that would require a bomb jump to get over. Okay, it looks like this is King's Tomb. Unfortunately, gets a mirror bonk there. Usually a lot of people will do it in the bottom right corner for this reason. It's because it's a little bit easier to remember. Okay, an Apple Tea. Electing to use Sword Slashes instead of additional hammer hits against these turtles once they're flipped over. Oh, it does use hammer hits there, yeah. So there's benefits to both approaches. As I said before, if you're not careful with your hammer hits, you can end up just flipping them back and forth over again, so that can be really annoying. So using Sword Slashes is a way to prevent that. Ooh, very nice cape dash. Oh, they even get a key dash into the door. Let's go. I love that. Very nice by Apple Tea. And just 17 hits to Helmasaur's helmet to end the first phase. And just a couple slash, and just gonna need to slash or spin or fire arrows into Helmasaur's jewel to get done with phase 2. And that is going to be dungeon number 4, done for Apple Tea. Keaton showing us our Village of Outcasts checks in the meantime. And they are going to go ahead and head into Thieves Town, which looks like is a green pendant from Apple Tea's tracker at least. So that is going to open up the option of moving over to Sahasrahla at some point and getting that single item from there. Alright, where is Apple Tea going to go? They kind of have... So again, they can go to Mire area if they want to get that red crystal, or they could, you know, just head to CAC and do Thieves Town, Village of Outcasts, Smith Chain. But the mountain is definitely less appealing for them now, as they've already done all Light World Death Mountain. Still not the worst, as, you know, now that they have their Moon Pearl, they can do the Dark World Death Mountain check, so that would include Super Bunny Cave and Hookshot Cave. And it might seem slow to get over there, but that sequence of 6 checks is one of the most efficient, you know, strings in the game. Maybe not at this point compared to all the checks that, you know, Apple Tea has open right now, but once it gets down to it, you know, at some point that has to become a priority. But it looks like Apple Tea is going to actually do the same thing as Keaton, even taking the same route here. So checking the middle of Skullwoods first. They are going to be able to do that room a little bit faster since they have the Canis Maria. Okay, and both of our runners looking pretty healthy now. Keaton with 13 hearts, Apple Tea with 11. Apple Tea decided not to grab that small key from the middle of Skullwoods, so they might have to route this a little bit differently. So they're going to get their big key from the right-hand chest here, and I forget exactly what was in the big chest. If it's not a small key, then Apple Tea might have to take the drop-down entrance of Skullwoods, which could make things a little bit awkward. Yeah, you don't have a small key. It looks like Apple Tea not going to elect to do that bomb jump. Maybe doesn't know how, so they're just going to do this drop down. Keaton, in the meantime, going to make good use of that magic cape through the Hellway of Thieves Town. And also, very nice, carefully avoids deactivating quick swapping off the cape during the door transition, as that will cause your movement to become soft locked until you use the cape again, so I like being safe there. So because Apple Tea did that drop down, they used the mirror, they're just going to end up at that drop down point again, so they're probably not going to want to use the mirror. They're going to want to go around to the right here. And it's just the big key left for Apple Tea, I believe, so it looks like now they're going to be doing their bomb jump. A bit surprised that they didn't do this before. Maybe they aren't super confident with it. Looks like they aren't confident with doing a spin slash setup, so just having to eyeball the position here, which is definitely a lot more difficult. You just kind of have to tap yourself into just the right pixel. does find the map. So, okay, so it wasn't a small key anyways, so even if they did do that bomb jump initially, they would have still had to do that drop down anyways. Okay, and we'll see if they elect to go all the way right to Graveyard Ledge as well as that's what Keaton did. Keaton unfortunately gets bunnied in the basement of Thieves Town. But does rescue Blind from her cell. And it looks like we're gonna go check the big chest here in Thieves Town. Apple-T taking a slightly different approach to Lumberjack Cave. So we saw Keaton when they were there. They chose to scout the item rather than go into this cave. I actually don't know which one is faster in terms of the expected time, versus if it's faster to, scout it and then leave versus, just blind check it. I haven't done those timings since not really a check that comes up super often in the modes that I play, but Apple-T looks like they are thinking about it. Keaton starting off with their blind fight. Apple-T, they're gonna go right or left? All right, so Apple-T is electing to skip out on Graveyard Ledge. Luckily, we know that there's nothing of significance there. But it is an often skipped check since it's kind of not on the way to Village Outcast of Thieves Town. Keaton takes 1 damage on that blind fight, but wasn't super worried. They did again have the magic cape available as well as half magic if they needed it. And that is the green pendant for Keaton. So again, we come down to this decision for Keaton. Like, do they go over the mountain and follow up on their full clearable dungeon, Tower of Hera, or are they going to go ahead and do, all of Smith Chain, finishing with Bombless Tablet? Okay, they're remembering that they still haven't done Sick Kid. I don't believe Keaton has done Magic Bat either. I know one of our runners did it, but I think it was Apple-T. Yeah, that's right, because Apple-T did Sick Kid and Magic Bat way earlier, so I think if I'm in Keaton's shoes, I'd probably go ahead and just, clear out this check chain. You're already here in the Village of Outcasts. They have also already done Dig Game, so they won't have to, worry about the fact that having a follower is not allowed for Dig Game. So yeah, why not take this opportunity, do all of these checks here. Just pretty much everything, right? You get to do Smith, Purple Chest, Hammer Pegs, Magic Bat even, and Bombless Tablet, so but hopefully they decide to go up the mountain afterward. As we know, that's where their Kingdom Samaria and Hookshot are waiting. I have to imagine the mountain has to kind of be calling to them right now. It's where their only full clearable in logic dungeon is, and there's like a billion checks up there, so I have to imagine they're thinking about doing that after this whole string of checks. Okay, Apple-T using the same Kate Dash there, and also avoiding the movement soft lock. I guess another option for both of our runners is to sequence break and do Ice Palace. A little bit less appealing in Keaton's case because they don't have that Cane of Samaria. Of course, the Cane of Samaria allowing us to do the Icebreaker clip to make Ice Palace just a lot faster of a dungeon. I think it cuts like I want to say like a minute or a minute and a half. I'd have to refresh myself on the timings, but it cuts quite a bit of time off of full clearing Ice Palace. Ooh, very nice movement by Apple-T. I do believe that strat is a little bit slower than just dashing through that room, but you can only get that if you have very tight movement there and you get the stair lag canceled properly, so nice to see that regardless. Alright, so Keaton has already checked Cave 45, so they elected to just Flute with purple chest. This does mean they are not going to be able to check almost. They're going to take this warp to be able to check Balmos Tablet. Very interesting. I have never seen this before, actually. I wonder if this is faster. Yeah, I have to wonder whether this is slower or faster. Especially since if you know how to do the invisible purple chest glitch, you can just dash from here after taking the portal. Yeah, I wonder if it's faster to go through that portal after fluting. Not sure. Something for me to time someday. Okay, but Keaton gonna show us this purple chest and Balmos Tablet checks. Purple chest is just a red rupee. Keaton waiting for that mirror portal. And Apple Tea is gonna go ahead and go into their blind fight. Let's see how they do here. Already setting up for their first hit. Unfortunately gets a spin there. That can happen if you release B a little bit too early. But if you release B kind of as your sword is hitting blind, you will get a spin, as opposed to if you wait until your sword is fully dropped before you release the B button, that spin won't happen. So it's like kind of threw Apple Tea off a little bit, but again, they have access to that magic cape, so not really concerned for them. And it looks like there was nothing of significance on Balmos Tablet that I can see. So Keaton gonna make use of this opportunity since they were already in the light world to flute away and check Green Pendant. I like this. We'll see what they decide to do after this. Again, the mountain has to be one of the things that's probably on the forefront of their mind, but they have a couple other options. They could elect to check the Misery Mire area first, and that's looks to be what they're doing. You know, of course, we know that the hookshot is up on the mountain itself, but Keaton doesn't know that. So as far as they're concerned, you know, they could find the hookshot over here, which could make the mountain, of course, more profitable, as it will allow them to check all of Hookshot Cave. And yeah, so I think delaying the mountain here is perfectly reasonable as well. These overworld checks are relatively fast. Yeah, this is a fun shovel dig song. Alright, Keaton gonna check the checkerboard cave here, and I have to imagine this is probably the point where he heads up the mountain, right? There's not really that much else left in terms of dense areas. I know they still got like catfish, and they haven't done the flipper checks either, but yeah, I was gonna say, I think this is the time. And like I said earlier, I like how this is gonna work out for Keaton, because they're gonna find their hookshot and Cane of Samaria here. So that's actually going to be interesting for them, because they will have... Oh no, they won't have access to Small Palace because they're missing their flippers. But they will be able to check Super Bunny Cave and Hookshot Cave, and that is something that Apple Tea did not have access to. Apple Tea also not having checked Spike Cave, because again, they were missing their Moon Pearl entirely. So we'll see if these Dark World Death Mountain checks pan out. The other question for Keaton is, if you're in Keaton's shoes, and Turtle Rock is open, do you dive into Turtle Rock without a Fire Rod? There is a 2/3 chance that Keaton will be able to open the Turtle Rock portal, and you know, open up the entrance into Turtle Rock. But without a Fire Rod, that dungeon is not full clearable, and it can vary how much of that dungeon you can complete based on the key layout. If there's not a small key in the first chest, you're kind of locked out. You can only do the compass chest, but if there's a small key, you can keep on going, and if there's more small keys, you can get strung along all the way to Laser Bridge, which can be a good thing or a bad thing, honestly. Alright, Apple Tea making some nice usage of the hookshot. Normally you can't dash with the purple chest, but if you do it immediately after being pulled by the hookshot, it does actually let you do that and retain the purple chest, so very nice. So we're going to see both runners kind of recreating each other's steps for a little bit here. So I guess to recap where we are in this race, both our runners started out pretty much pretty much neck and neck, doing the same things, but Apple-T kind of fell behind early due to an unfortunate death against Lanmo, as they were doing that fight early on as their first... both of our runners were doing that fight early on as their first boss battle. So Keaton was able to pull ahead a little bit, and Keaton also decided to do Aga Tower much earlier than Apple-T did. So Apple-T chose to take the mirror from Dark Cross, head up the mountain, and finish Tower of Hera, as well as all the Light World Death Mountain checks. But Keaton did find that the Moon Pearl was on Pyramid Ledge, so Keaton was definitely first to the Dark World by a significant margin. Ooh, Apple-T kind of struggling to get this dash off, yeah. I will note that if you are doing the invisible purple chest glitch, you can actually go in and out of Pipe Cave, and not have to worry about, you know, where the purple chest is altogether. A lot of people are concerned that the invisible purple chest glitch, where you kind of dash away from the purple chest, does break if you enter Hype Cave, but not actually true. You can go into Hype Cave and come out, and the purple chests, invisible purple chests, will still work. It looks like Apple-T is going to not rely on that, and still keep the purple chest in tow. Meanwhile, Keaton does grab their King Samaria out of Tower of Hera. So, for Keaton, it's really going to be, I think, a question of does he dive into Turtle Rock, assuming that it's not, you know, locked by Quake. What he finds in Super Bunny Cave and Hookshot Cave can also definitely influence that decision. You know, for example, if he finds the flippers there, he could elect to just leave and check and, you know, do Ice Palace, which would be fully in logic at that point, as well as Swamp Palace, which would be full clearable as well. I think for Apple-T, it's going to be a matter of, does Apple-T, so they're kind of finishing up this check chain, are they going to choose to, you know, check out on Misery Mire and potentially clear Misery Mire? Or are they going to head back up the mountain for those Dark World Death Mountain checks? There's arguments on both sides. As we said earlier, Misery Mire does have that red crystal, so that does unlock Pyramid Fairy. But on the other hand, if you think about the total number of checks in the Misery Mire area, you know, there's 2 in Mire Shed, there's 1 in Checkerboard Cave, and 2 more in Mire itself. You know, that's 5 checks total. But there's 6 checks, you know, in Dark World Death Mountain that you can do on the right side of the mountain, and getting all those 6 checks will definitely be a lot quicker than these 5 checks, you know, in the Mire area. But of course, Mire is also, you know, a dungeon that we have to complete at some point. Looks like Ether Medallion is going to be our required medallion to get into Mire, so both runners are going to have that option to full clear Mire. And we'll see if Apple-T chooses to do so. They're heading out to Checkerboard Cave, but this could just be doing Checkerboard Cave and then doing Mire afterward. You know, they do have 14 hearts here, so looks like they are going to feel confident in finishing Misery Mire right here and now. And I will say we did have very early access to Misery Mire, because with that flute was Sphere 1 in Kakariko, and let's see, the myths were in Saha's Closet, I believe, so both gloves actually were Sphere 1 as well. And I believe the boots were also Sphere 1, yeah, so kind of, I forget where Ether was, but a lot of the ingredients needed to make Misery Mire accessible were Sphere 1. I wonder if our... what are we still looking for? We're still looking for Fire Rod or Flippers? I wonder if one of those 2 is here. But of course, you know, just because the logic seems like it's pointing in a particular direction doesn't necessarily mean that the items are there. This is randomizer, after all. Okay, Keaton does take the Turtle Rock portal, which, yeah, that makes sense. Even if they're not hoping to step into Turtle Rock, I believe this was the fastest way to route the mountain. You know, down through Spiral Cave, up through Paradox Cave, and then taking the TR portal. They are opening up to TR, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they want to step in. They're kind of indecisive. Yeah, so even if you step in here, you gotta check Hookshot Cave and Super Bunny Cave first, because your Fire Rod could just be hanging out there, right? But I think in Keaton's case, it's interesting, because they also... So having that Kingdom Samaria, they also know they could full clear Misery Mire. There's only 2 items there, and they've already checked Mire Shed and Checkerboard Cave, so maybe it's not the biggest deal. But that would be the main concern. But I guess in Keaton's case, you know, sequence breaking Ice Palace doesn't seem that bad either. Because there's nothing preventing the Fire Rod from being there, right? And that could allow you to avoid a double dip into Turtle Rock. Like, let's say the Flippers are in Turtle Rock, which gets you logical access to Ice Palace, and then the Fire Rod is in Ice Palace. You could avoid that logically required, okay, but the Fire Rod's here in Hookshot Cave, so... Alright, so Keaton getting off the hook a little bit easy here, and just having a full clearable Turtle Rock. Okay, in the meantime, Apple Tea looks like they have finished looking for items here in Misery Mire. It looks like I don't actually have all the tracker. I apologize for that. Alright, put those chest counts on there. Yeah, so they are done looking for items in Misery Mire, so just making their way to Vitreous. Looks like they actually got a pretty fast Mire layout from the looks of it. I didn't see them do cutscene chests, so pretty nice layout in Misery Mire, but there wasn't anything that we needed there. I guess at this point we're just looking for the Fire Rod, huh? Or, no, sorry, I mean, we're just looking for the Flippers. The Fire Rod was in Hookshot Cave, of course, as Keaton found. Alright, so Keaton's going to be making use of the Hookshot, looks like, to throw themselves into this pit, which is going to allow them to get through this room a little bit faster than the intended method. And Apple Tea going to make their way over to Vitreous. Keaton looking for the Magic Cape. Unfortunately, it takes a while to quick swap there. And the Flippers are in Turtle Rock. So if I'm not mistaken, that is Go Mode for Keaton, assuming they know how to do Ganon, take down Ganon without silvers. And Apple Tea gonna elect to use the Magic Cape and do just dashes through these eyeballs. There's various ways you can handle this fight with invincibility items. You can do dashes, you can do slashes. Some people do spins as well, as they do more damage, but, you know, of course, spins take longer to charge. It has just enough magic to take down all of those eyeballs without any damage. Even tanks a few hits just to get those arrows into Vitreous a little bit faster. That is actually optimal. You have to normally losing health. Ooh, Keaton has to be really careful. Just took 2 very big hits from those chain chomps. I was going to say, usually you don't want to lose health to a boss, as, you know, after defeating a boss you have to wait for all your hearts to replenish. But Apple Tea had no magic at the end of that fight, so they had to wait for that cutscene anyway, so it was actually optimal to tank that damage and get those arrows into Vitreous faster, so I approve. Okay, looks like Apple Tea is going to follow up on this red crystal and give us a Pyramid Fairy check. But unfortunately, we already know that their progression is not going to be there, as all the remaining progression is up on Death Mountain. Fire Rod in Hookshot Cave, and the Flippers in Turtle Rock. So it looks like the other Kingdom of Samaria dungeon was the answer here. So not Misery Mire, but instead Turtle Rock. So Keaton just gonna have to, you know, finish the rest of this dungeon. Looks like they are going to... They do have the big key. Okay, looks like they are actually going to continue checking for items, so if you're in Go Mode, you can... Oh! Wait, did they check the Misery Mire Medallion? Do they not know whether they're in Go Mode? Well, either way, they are going to elect to... Oh, Apple Tea going for the bomb dupe. That's something I didn't expect to see in Fighter Sword bracket. Dang. So Applety going for a trick where if you cross a screen, so normally you can't dash with the Big Bomb, but if you dash away and leave it behind, but trigger a screen transition right as the Big Bomb timer reaches 0. Oh, unfortunately they just dropped it there. Luckily they still have plenty of money. But if you trigger a screen transition right as the timer for the Big Bomb says 0, the Big Bomb will kind of just teleport to you instead of being left behind. It looks like they missed it there. Okay, so now I'm going to do a different strat of using the hook shot in order to dash. This is usually what I do, is it's a little bit less punishing if you screw up. Okay, Keaton only got 3 hearts, but does have a fairy in one of their bottles, if I'm not mistaken, so they should be fine here. Yeah, gonna go pick up those 2 hearts as well. They are gonna need to do Laser Bridge. There is a small key required for them over there. But they do have half magic and both invincibility items, so that should be no problem for them. In the meantime, Applety gonna score a sword upgrade and the silver arrows from Pyramid Fairy. I think if it's just one of those, maybe not necessarily worth the time investment, but for both of those, yeah, you'll take it. Alright, so Applety gonna be a little bit thorough here and decide to dash up here to Catfish. I wonder if they're gonna... This is kind of their best time to get that Graveyard Ledge check as well that they elected to skip out on earlier. Unfortunately, if they do decide to follow up on it, it is going to put them a little bit further behind. I think Keaton is kind of firmly in the driver's seat now. And it was all because they were able to... It was really just... All of this was really because Keaton pulled the trigger decided to pull the trigger on Aga, whereas Applety decided to go up the mountain first. And, you know, that's not a decision that you would make in a normal, you know, open 7-7 seed. But Keaton making that decision to do Aga early because this is all dungeon and you need to do Aga at some point. So Keaton was just like, we're right here, we have the mirror. Yeah, it might be a little bit faster later on if I have Silvers or Fire Rod, but not that much faster. So it really paid off for Keaton. Applety, unfortunately, not having those, not having that Moon Pearl when they went up the mountain. So, gonna have to make another trip up here. Unfortunately gets bullied by those dead rocks. Alright, Keaton's setting up for phase 2 of Trinex here. And finishes it pretty quickly. But Applety is following up, so I guess... So, let's see, are they really that far behind? Let's see. So obviously they still need to find their Fire Rod, and then go into TR and grab their flippers. But they have also already completed Misery Mire, so they're not quite as far behind as they might seem on the screen right now. And remember, they do also have the Tempered Sword and Silver Arrows. That is going to be, you know, kind of an accumulating advantage as we go on through the seed. You know, our runners are going to have to take down, let's see, Mothula, Argus, and Coldstare. And these are three bosses that are definitely made quicker if you have Tempered Sword on hand. So that call to go to Pyramid Fairy actually, you know, while it wasn't where Applety's required progression was, I do think it's going to pay off over the long run. So Applety opening TR. I do think that if you're going to check the items in both Super Bunny and Hookshot Cave, it is faster coming from the bottom to take the other Dark World portal instead of taking the TR portal, actually. And then you can just mirror it for TR. I only mentioned that because I have a video on it. I'm sorry, it's hard for me to not comment on these things when I've literally made YouTube videos on them. But alright, so Applety probably really relieved to see their Fire Rod there. Keaton, I imagine they're going to be able to save a little bit of time, maybe not that much time. You know, if you get to Goemon Mire, sometimes you can save a lot of time, but from what it looked like on Applety's side, it looked like Mire was actually pretty fast in terms of the item and key layout. So Keaton probably not going to be able to save a ton of time in Misery Mire, even though they are in Go mode here. Oh, it looks like Big Key was first, so I guess it'll be able to save a little bit of time. So they won't have to go over and check the compass chest like Applety did. But yeah, it looks like both the spike chest here and compass chest were the two items in Misery Mire. So pretty much the best Misery Mire key layout that you can ask for in any situation. Okay, Applety taking the same route through the front of Turtle Rock as Keaton did. I do believe this is slightly slower than checking the Fire Rod side first and then mirroring, and then doing compass chest and then proceeding forward, but no time lost or gained as both of our runners did the exact same thing. And Applety gonna go ahead and set up Otto for this hookshot strat for this room. As Keaton make their way to Vitreous. Looks like Keaton is going to finish with Misery Mire before Applety gets done with Turtle Rock, so yeah, looks like, ooh, Applety ran into a little bit of cape cooldown there. And Applety is in go mode with those flippers. More comfy go mode than Keaton at that, since they do have those silvers and Tempered Sword on hand. It's really going to come down to, you know, both our runners will have to do Swamp Palace, Skullwoods, and Ice Palace in whatever order they choose. They're just going to have to go mode all three dungeons. So it's just going to come down to Keaton right now has a lead, but are they going to be able to sustain that lead through, you know, executing these dungeons? And is that Tempered Sword and Silver Arrows for Applety going to make the difference? And it very well could. I would say, yeah, it really just depends on these runners' level of execution from here. Alright, so Keaton needs to choose what order to do the rest of these dungeons in. We've got Swamp Palace, Skullwoods, and Ice Palace. I guess if it was me, I would probably do Skullwoods first. I feel like that's a dungeon that where you save the least amount of time by having silvers, or sorry, Tempered Sword. Whereas, you know, Argus gets a lot faster with Tempered Sword. Cold Stare, actually, no, I like Ice Palace actually. Yeah, because Cold Stare doesn't really get that much faster because you're just going to use your Fire Rod on Cold Stare anyway, so I like this too. It's probably Ice Palace, and I imagine you want to finish with Swamp Palace last, is my guess. Alright, Applety actually going to take the same route as Keaton here. Or not. Okay, Applety actually going to gain a little bit of time back here. I believe Keaton, I wasn't watching closely, but from when I was looking, I believe they went and checked the big chest? Question mark? I know I saw them quick stopping to the mirror, so that's why I assumed they checked Mimic Cave and big chest, but I admittedly turned away when they were actually doing that, so maybe I'm not remembering correctly. Yep, and Keaton just gonna go ahead and skip past that. Applety finding another sword. Oh, that's right. Oh, I didn't notice it, but there was a sword in Turtle Rock, so unfortunately, not gonna be as big of an advantage. You know, if that sword hadn't been in TR, I do think Applety would have had a big advantage, you know, with Tempered Sword versus Master Sword. Which is not to say that Gold Sword, you know, is no advantage compared to Tempered Sword. It's just really not as big of an advantage. Especially when it comes to these bosses. You know, a lot of the normal enemies in this game will already be one-shot by a Tempered Sword slash, and for the bosses, you know, a lot of times it is not going to, you know, all the Argus puffs are going to be able to be one-shot by the Tempered Sword as well, so... and Moth doesn't take any extra damage from Gold Sword either, so... Ooh, unfortunately, Applety gonna take a fall, not gonna have any more magic for the last Laser Bridge chest, which is gonna be required here. So let's see if they can get this Laser Bridge skip. Uh-oh. They do have some blue potions on. Yeah, I was gonna say I would recommend just drinking those blue potions. You've got plenty. And you're looking pretty comfy as far as equipment goes. Okay, Keaton did elect to hit the switch here. Looks like they're opening some extra chests along the way. Potentially search for silver arrows. I don't blame them. Unfortunately, we already know they're not going to find them, as the silver arrows are in Pyramid Fairy. Keaton did elect to hit the Crystal Switch in Ice Palace, which of course is the right decision when you're in go mode, as that means you don't have to look for your big key. It does make getting to Cold Stair faster on average, as you won't need to look for... Well, even if you need to look for a big key, it's really the combination of having to look for a big key plus a small key. If you haven't hit the switch, that makes it slower. Alright, so Apple T setting up for Phase 2 of Trinex, as Keaton is going to drop down into their Cold Stair fight. Okay, Apple T, again, finishing a sword advantage that isn't nothing, you know, they finished that fight in a few, you know, in half the amount of sword slashes, so 3 instead of 5. Keaton going to use the Fire Rod here, so just 8 Fire Rod shots to melt Cold Stair's outer shell. And then I imagine they're going to try to use the Fire Rod for Phase 2 as well. Oh, unfortunately misses that spin. Kind of got knocked off by that that falling ice particle. But it is going to be able to clean up the fight relatively quickly. Ooh, Apple T is going to bonk here, right? Yeah. Usually you don't want to move out of the entrance of a Dark World dungeon when you mirror. Okay, so Apple T kind of behind by a single dungeon. So yeah, I would say they're, even with the silver arrow advantage, I would say they are looking, oh, yeah, you gotta take that portal there. I will say they probably look like they are needing to, like, make something happen here as far as, you know, the time differential. Ganon's tower routing could potentially help them out if our runners, you know, take different routes through the Ganon's tower basement, looking for that big key. So that could definitely be a factor. It's really going to be, I think a lot of this is going to come down to a matter of how confident is Keaton with the Silverless Ganon fight. I think if it goes pretty smoothly, you know, if Keaton hits his torch glitch, and, you know, manages to have a pretty consistent fight, no falls, I think he should be able to have this one in the bag. But if something happens in, you know, GT or against Ganon, it could be a different story. But both of our runners looking pretty healthy as far as resources goes. You know, they've got plenty of health, got that half magic, which is definitely a boon, especially in the latter parts of the game. And they've got all of their luxury items on hand as well. You know, they've got the powder in case they need to convert any anti-fairies into fairies in GT. Got that magic cape in case they need extra invincibility. Ooh, Apple T narrowly avoiding getting grabbed by that Wallmaster. In this version of the game, you can actually get grabbed as you are falling into the pit, so definitely something you don't want to happen. Okay, not too bad of a Mothula fight. Keaton gonna, I assume, be doing Specky Clip. You don't actually need this small key here. That's the slowest one to get, but... Right. Okay, so that Specky Clip... The Specky Clip setup doesn't always work if it's not normalized perfectly against the left-hand rail there, but a lot of time it will still work despite the subpixel alignment, so I'm glad it worked for Keaton. And of course, they are heading straight to the back, because all we need to do is beat Argus. And Apple T is choosing Swamp Palace next. Okay. Yeah, I guess for Apple T, it doesn't really make a difference what order you do these two in, so kind of take your pick. Alright, Keaton with a nice diver down trick. I feel like pretty much everyone, not everyone, I have seen a few runners who still don't know how to do that one, but a lot of runners know how to do that one now. If you're watching, if you're enjoying this match so far, highly recommend you give these two runners a follow. I'll have the links to their Twitch channels in the description of this video. Alright, so Keaton electing to skip the Phelps Way key in that room instead of skipping the initial key in Swamp Palace. That's definitely valid. I do believe it's a little bit slower, but depends on your execution, of course, how long it takes you to get each key, so blah blah blah. And having a pretty easy time, pretty simple fight against Argus. As we said, with Tempered Sword, you just need a single slash for each one of those puffs. Gonna try and set up for a quick kill here on phase 2, it looks like. Or not. Okay, just using 2 spins. Keep it nice and simple, yeah. Very consistent. Apple T, gonna go ahead and skip that first key. As I did mention, you know, this does tend to be a little bit faster, but it's only a couple seconds difference, but, you know, we're speedrunners, we like to do things as fast as possible, so every little bit counts, and especially when you're in Apple T's situation, you know, he doesn't know it, but he really needs every single second to count here. So Keaton floating away at the at 129.37 about, so we'll see just how far Apple T is behind, although, no, I guess we can't because Apple T still needs to do Ice Palace, whereas Keaton needs to do Skullwood, so it's not really a fair comparison. Okay, Apple T Apple T gonna be able to skip some of these chests that Keaton was stopping to open, so again, little seconds here and there. Again, that's because Apple T already has Silver Arrows and Gold Sword, so they're really not looking for anything here. So Apple T gonna have to go ahead and grab this key here. It is going to cost them a couple seconds to grab that key, but, you know, it's a little bit faster than grabbing that first key, because, you know, you have to go through that door transition. Okay, and of course, since Apple T has that Gold Sword, it looks shiny, but unfortunately is not going to help at all against this fight. It won't let you do any extra damage. Having a little bit of trouble looking those puffs. Looks like they're standing pretty close to Argus, which means that, yeah, the puffs have a chance of getting retracted back into Argus before you get to slash them, but finishes phase 1 just fine. And lining up for a Silver Arrows kill. Okay, just goes for slashes instead, okay. Both runners setting up for alternative quick kills and then deciding they want to keep it simple. I respect it. Yeah, so it looks like Apple T, yeah, definitely a couple of minutes behind here. Maybe around 2 minutes behind, it looks like. I think Keaton was fluting out at the 129.27 mark, I want to say. So yeah, it looks like 2 minutes. They do still have to do Ice Palace here, but Keaton is going to be done with Skull Woods in not too long. It does feel like Ice Palace would probably take a little bit longer than Skull Woods by my estimation to go mode. Not entirely sure on that, but yeah, it looks like Keaton is definitely in the driver's seat here. So all they need to do is head up to Ganon's Tower and... Okay, checking their potion situation. Definitely not a bad idea. This is kind of... Before you flute over to the mountain, is kind of your last chance to stop by the potion shop and buy anything that you think you might need. Looks like they are going to take that stop. Better safe than sorry, of course, but you know, if Apple T decides to just head straight up to GT, you know, that's another... It's not nothing, you know, it's another, you know, 20 or so seconds. Every little bit, you know, adds up. Okay, Apple T trying to set up for this Icebreaker clip. Imagine if they... Yep, okay, so they're going straight past that chest, so again, just gating little bits of time here and there. Every chest that you skip, you know, is a few seconds. You know, even just the chest fanfare animation, that is, you know, probably like a little bit over a second saved. Will it be enough to overcome this deficit, though? That's a real question. course, Keaton is going to be the first into GT. By quite a margin, it looks like. So I think Applety is going to need the GT routing to swing his way. Unless Keaton has something happen to them in GT or on the Ganon fight, which is definitely possible. Alright, Keaton choosing to take the Super Bunny route to GT. The kind of less annoying route, even though it's the less optimal route. It's also less prone to being deadrocked. Alright, Applety electing to use the Bombus Medallion here. It is a little bit slower than using the Fire Rod, but it is going to let you have access to more magic for Phase 2. Unfortunately, they also missed the spin, kind of in the same manner that Keaton did. But could have enough magic and Gold Sword to finish out this fight. Alright, Keaton is going to go check Hope Room first. They have their mirror out, so I assume there's going to be a Hope left. So no key on the in Hope Room, so not that much variance possible in terms of routing here. The only real thing you could do here is you could skip Hope Room and just go full left, or you could also, after the Stalfos room that Keaton's about to do, you could mirror and then head right to the Compass Room. That is another possible route. Okay, but looks like Keaton is going to continue. And Applety also taking the Super Bunny Portal, so same pathing, but they, of course, did not stop by the potion shop. They're feeling confident with their 2 blue potions on deck. So making up a little bit of ground there. Keaton setting up for a blue boomerang strat for this Crystal Switch. Oh, unfortunately throws it a bit low. Let's see if we can try that again. Okay, Alexa just used Smart instead. Yeah, this is kind of a simpler option. Ooh, unfortunately, looks like they had a little bit of a snafu there in that moving spike room. Gets into the portal okay. And Applety is about to open up Ganon's tower. Remember that big key can be in any one of these chests here. Could even be on in the compass room on the right side of Ganon's tower, which is probably going to be the last area that Keaton checks here. Applety electing to go right first. They're going to be taking the same route as Keaton, assuming they don't mirror after Stalfos room. Still no big key, so... so it can either be in Bob's chest, in the 3 chests behind Ice Armos, or it's going to be right side. Keaton looks like they're... okay, nice. Taking damage from those hard hat beetles to skip and bypass that portal. And a nice bonk to get over that gap in the invisible bridge. Nice usage of the magic powder. Alright, it's not in Bob's chest, so at this point it has to be either Ice Armos or Compass Room. Looks like Applety is continuing on, so no mirroring back and checking Compass first. So both these runners taking the same route here. Keaton electing to use Sword Beams and Tempered Sword against these Armless Knights. I guess they want to save some of their arrows. This could actually really work out in Applety's favor, as they have the silver arrow, so this fight should take a lot shorter for them. You know, sword beams definitely not going to be very fast to take down the knights. Oh no. Okay, nice. Manages to land those last 3 bow shots. Yeah, but sword beams, you know, do only the damage of a fighter sword slash, so definitely going to take a lot to kill those armless knights. Keaton still firmly in the lead here. Looks like Big Key is going to be either hanging out in Compass Room or in Tile Room. But yeah, Applety, I imagine, is going to have a much easier time with that fight due to those silver arrows. Okay, Keaton skipping by Tile Room, as you definitely want to check that one last. Ooh, interesting use of the hook shot there. I usually don't see people switch to hook shot there. Oh, unfortunately gets tagged by that spike 3 times. See if they can still make it into the door in time. Almost? Alright, they are safe. Alright, Applety is going to drop into their Ice Armless fight. Let's see if they can make this happen faster with the aid of these silver arrows. There's the Big Key for Keaton. Opening the rest of these chests, hoping for some silver arrows or a gilt sword, but of course, they're not going to find any. But they are good to start their climb. And Applety taking care of that fight, definitely faster than Keaton did. But they're still behind. Alright, let's see how Keaton does on this climb. Again, silvers are going to make these mimic rooms a little bit faster too, potentially. As those mimics are going to take 2 normal arrow shots, but only 1 shot from the silvers. Okay, Keaton takes a few Beamos shots there, but, you know, again, they took the time to restock on potions before coming up here, so they should be just fine. Alright, Applety having a little bit of better time for that room. And Keaton only at 1.5 hearts. Might want to think about drinking one of those potions. Okay, that was actually that bridge was actually a little bit dangerous. If you get knocked by one of those cannonballs and then fall, that could be a death. Although they might have a fairy in a ball, I'm not sure. Alright, Applety finds their Big Key. Oh no, they quick swap the wrong way to the mirror! Applety, every second counts here! Alright, Keaton takes a short pit stop to get some fairies. If Applety can avoid having to do that, that's going to be some time. Keaton really struggling with this first room of the gauntlet. The enemies are not being nice to him. Alright, can Applety make something happen here with those silver arrows? Okay, pretty nice first room. Keaton continuing on here. Okay, very nice key dash by Applety. Ooh, nice fire rod shot. Nice fire rod shots by Keaton. Even just picks up that small magic on the way. And is going to be able to powder this bunny beam. Almost thought Applety was going to use the magic cape there, but looks like they just tanked the hits. Not even going to use the magic cape in this room. I'm disappointed as a cape believer. Magic Cape is the fastest way through that cannonball room, for sure. Okay, Applety definitely got through that first gauntlet room faster. You can see the difference starting to equalize just a little bit, but there's still quite a few rooms behind. And Keaton is not letting up. Ooh, very nice arrow shot by Applety. I've never seen that one before. Okay, this gauntlet is definitely going smoother for them, and Keaton misses the Samaria kill on those Wizrobes. But Applety didn't have quite as good of a strat for this room. Okay, Keaton manages to get through Wizrobe 2. Gets across the bridge okay. Okay, Appletea's gonna try and set up her silver arrows. All three of the Lambos are gonna spawn at the same time, though. Okay, just goes for a spin. I like that. Ooh, barely avoids getting tagged by that shooter. Oh no, but doesn't get that last Landmo. Oh, they really needed that. Okay, Keaton refilling on resources here. So far, Appletea has, yeah, skipped that refill, you know, in the Cannonball, after the Cannonball Bridge. You're kind of skipping on all these safeties that Keaton is, you know, picking up. So they're doing the right things, I wonder if that's going to be enough. Okay. Yeah, Keaton, again, making use of that powder. Are they going to check this chest as well? Yeah, they are. I mean, it makes sense. Silvers does, you know, shave quite a lot of time off that Ganon fight. Okay, is Appletea gonna skip these pots as well? They are. Yeah, they're doing all the right things here to try and catch up. I mean, they don't know, of course they don't know where Keaton is, but this is all the stuff they need to be doing. Yeah, just skip everything here. It's getting closer, I will say. Oh no, but they missed that bomb! And Keaton is already knocking on the door of the Aghanim refight. Okay, oh no, Keaton misses all three of those Aga shots. Oh, not having a good time with Aga 2. This could be the chance that Appletea needs. Only got one shot there. Oh no, is Keaton feeling the pressure? Okay, Appletea making use of the magic cape there. Okay, gets a double there. Keaton looks like they might be back on track. Okay, manages double there too. Let's see how Appletea manages this fight. Already starting with a double. This should be a faster fight for Appletea. Ah, but as I say that, only a single there. Oh no! Oh no, Appletea! Oh, it's all falling apart. They had a chance there. But gets a triple there to finish the fight, okay. Yeah, this is really just going to come down to Keaton's Silverless Ganon execution, I think. Keaton drops in at the 26th second mark. Okay, it's going to be 12 slashes for Keaton to finish Phase 1 and Phase 2. Of course, Appletea is going to be able to get the one cycle because they only need 6. And it looks like Keaton, yeah, doesn't get the one cycle there. Looks like Appletea's maybe like 20 seconds behind. But that's a difference that can be made up here. Okay, but Keaton uses the magic capes smartly to get a one cycle in Phase 2. Appletea is going to get that one cycle in Phase 2 as well. So they made up time in Phase 1, but not in Phase 2. And of course, Ganon's teleport patterns are seeded. So we shouldn't see any divergence there, aside from the fact that Keaton's Ganon made one extra teleport for, you know, Phase 1 taking an extra cycle. Yeah, we can see they're on the same teleport cycles! Okay. They were teleporting to the same places. Oh no, Keaton is actually, wait, cycle, that actually made a difference? Okay, I didn't know the like, Ganon teleport seeding worked that way. Okay, Keaton onto Phase 4 now, but Appletea just needs 4 silver hits. And Keaton needs to finish this silverless fight. I think Appletea can get this. They have the Torch Glitch. That Gold Sword actually did make a difference. Oh, what a nice double by Appletea. Oh, that was weird. And Appletea's got this. Clawing it back through the entire GT climb. escaping out all those safety refills and getting the job done. Keaton, of course, stays safe with another blue potion, but unfortunately, having to do this fight Silverless was just a bit too slow. And Appletea's visit to Pyramid Fairy really paid off. Even though it wasn't required, wasn't required progression. That Gold Sword making a difference on Phase 1 of Ganon, those silver arrows coming in handy. Yeah, if Appletee had to do Silverless Ganon, this would be... I wonder what would happen then, but yeah, those silvers coming in clutch. So Appletee going to win out with a time of 1:48.34. A very exciting race. A very exciting conclusion to this race. Keaton gonna finish shortly after with a time of, it looks like 1:49 and low 20 seconds. And that was a good game. So props to both these runners. Very well played. That was a really exciting match to watch. I hope you all enjoyed. Again, if you enjoyed watching these runners play, I highly recommend you guys follow them on Twitch. And if you want to see more Go Mode Podcast matches, there are more bracket matches scheduled and happening right now. You can go ahead and check out the Go Mode Podcast Discord for some more information on those scheduled matches. And be sure to follow the Go Mode Podcast Twitch channel to see some of those matches hopefully get restreamed in the future. But for the matches that are not restreamed, I will continue to try and rebroadcast some of them here on my YouTube channel. This is, of course, Game 1 of a best-of-3 series between these two runners. So Appletee now leads 1-0 after this game. These racers have already played a second game, so if you want to check that out, that is available to watch. You can put their VODs side by side on their Twitch channels and see that play out if you are feeling invested in the series. But that is going to do it for my commentary and for this race. Hope you all enjoyed. Hope you have a good rest of your day or evening or night, wherever you are. And this has been DDR Kirby. Thank you for watching.